We went to this place and I walked in. I look out onto the balcony and the view was the view that I had seen in my meditations. And it was a moment where it took my breath away. I could not comprehend how that vision had come into my brain. I started learning everything I could about spirituality, yoga, meditation, synchronicities, breathwork, astrology, human design, gene keys, ley lines, aliens. Children see the magic because they believe it. They have no other reason not to. The ones that didn't believe it often had trauma or conditioning that was so evident and clear. I had everything I thought I was supposed to want. I made it to the West End. I'd achieved my dream. Yet during this time on stage, metaphorically, I describe it as like I was in the spotlight, but I had this huge shadow behind me. I was working on myself weekly in therapy to understand and unpick all of the trauma and conditioning from my childhood and create better relationships with my parents and my family. Ultimately, the reason why I went to therapy was because during COVID at the time, all of these feelings started to come up, all this anger and resentment and guilt and shame. And I realized that I had so much trauma from my childhood that I needed to speak about, but I didn't know how or why I needed to speak about this. So at the age of 11, I was... If you're new here today, thank you for listening. My name's Melissa and welcome to the Purpose Search podcast. This space was created for awakening, for remembering, and for reconnecting you to who you truly are. My intention is to help you to find your path, your purpose, and your truth, because I truly believe that when more people begin to live in alignment with who they are, the world naturally becomes a more joyful place, a more playful place, and a more creative and compassionate place. Now, when one person wakes up, it creates a ripple effect through honest conversations, shared experiences, and deeper exploration. My hope is that something here lights a fire within you to find your path. You don't need to have all the answers. I didn't. You just need a curiosity and a willingness to explore. If something resonates with you here today, it's not a coincidence. Every episode, I sit in meditation and ask for those who are meant to benefit from my message and my conversations be guided to it. So there is a reason that you clicked on this episode here today. If you do get something from these conversations, please leave a comment below. Affirm it now and write, "This resonates with me and I'm finding my way." Leaving a comment also helps this message reach more people who might need it. And I genuinely love reading all your reflections and hearing what you've taken from each episode. The other way to support is by subscribing. And if you've been here for a while and haven't clicked that button yet, I promise I will bring my full heart and my full presence and everything I've got into this space. Now, if this podcast helps you to remember who you are, even in a small way, then it's doing exactly what it's here to do. Every episode, I start with a short breath exercise to drop us into the body and get present with the conversation as we come onto screen or we're listening through our ears. So today, please do not do this if you are driving, but I invite you to close your eyes if you feel safe to do so. But you can also take a soft gaze in front of you if that feels more comfortable. Now I want you to breathe in softness and we're going to breathe out fear. So I invite you to put your feet planted on the floor if you're sitting down, or if you're lying down, just let the bed hold your body, or wherever you're lying on your sofa. Now I want you to ground your feet into the floor, and we're going to take a deep breath in through the nose and we're going to breathe out through the mouth. So we're going to take a deep breath in, breathing in softness, and breathing out fear. We're going to breathe in softness, and we'll breathe out fear. We'll breathe in softness and breathe out fear. Now for the final time, we'll breathe in softness and breathing out fear, taking the longest breath out that you've taken today. And when you are ready, have some movement to your fingers and your feet, and opening your eyes, coming to screen. Now, at the beginning of my podcast, I always ask my guests usually what their zodiac sign is and what their human design energy type is. So I'll introduce mine. I am a Cancer sun. I'm a Taurus rising ascendant, and I am a Pisces moon, which is quite a few water signs and highly intuitive. And for a long time, I didn't really resonate with this. I didn't know that I was intuitive. But over time, since listening to my intuition and listening to myself more and more, and trying to take out other people's opinions and other people's experiences, I have learned how to listen to my intuition, and how that has led me to so many synchronicities throughout my life and given me more confidence in my own intuition and listening to what my intuition is telling me. And my human design energy type is a projector, and my profile is 1-3. Now, if you don't know what human design is, it's a modality which combines the Chinese I Ching, the Kabbalah tree of life, and the chakra system. Now, this is a modality which explains energy types in 5 different ways. So we have manifesting generators and generators, which make about 70% of the population. And then we have the projectors, which I fall into, which is about 20% of the population. And then we have manifestors, who make up 8%, and then reflectors, about 1% of the population, who are incredibly rare, but very, very needed in this world. And my life incarnation cross, which is the reason why you've been brought here to Earth and what you're designed for, is the right angle cross of penetration 53, 54, 51, 57. And this is a very interesting incarnation cross. And I didn't really resonate with this at all until I kind of realized what my heart was telling me to do and what I wanted to do, which was make conversations and let people hear about it. So I felt really cool to record this episode today, because my intention is to inspire you. It's to awaken you, to give you some questions to think about what it is that your purpose actually is here today, and why you're here and why you're brought to this earth. And if that's because you've never heard of human design before and you start to go down the rabbit hole of learning your human design, amazing. Or if you don't know what your rising sign or your moon sign is for your astrology, go and look it up. You can do all of that online. I actually had a lot of resistance about filming this episode today, but as the saying goes, fear is the gatekeeper to our greatest gifts. And if you're feeling fear, then you're probably on the right path. So I'm speaking from the heart today, and I'm trusting that it will be listened to by the souls that need it and that need to hear it. I really resonated actually hearing other people's podcasts and stories and their vulnerabilities and sharing their stories. So here's mine. My story from this lifetime is that I studied microbiology as my first degree to live by my parents' dream for me. And then I worked in the food industry for about a year and a half. And I did many cool things, like I went to Belgium and drove there and back. I released some incredible food products for retailers, and I did this at the age of 21. And I soon followed after that my passion and dreams after realizing I hated the office job. So I studied a master's in musical theatre. And from there, I then pursued my dream of being in the West End, which is the equivalent of Broadway in the US. But alongside these career moments, I also taught children for over 16 years, building confidence and communication and teaching them life lessons through drama, dance, and singing. And I learned during this time that children see the magic because they believe it. They have no other reason not to. And the ones that didn't believe it often had trauma or conditioning that was so evident and clear. Now, I had everything I thought I was supposed to want. I made it to the West End, I'd achieved my dream, and yet during this time on stage, metaphorically, I describe it as like I was in the spotlight, but I had this huge shadow behind me. And so, for context, I was actually working on myself weekly in therapy to understand and unpick all of the trauma and conditioning from my childhood and create better relationships with my parents and my family. Because ultimately, the reason why I went to therapy was because during COVID at the time, all of these feelings started to come up, all this anger and this resentment and this guilt and this shame. And I realized that I had so much trauma from my childhood that I needed to speak about, but I didn't know how or why I needed to speak about this. So at the age of 11, I was sexually abused by my uncle on my mum's side, and it was my mum's sister's husband. Now, he was a very important part of my journey of unraveling why all the choices I had made from 11 years old to my adult years, these were the things that I was unpicking of my decisions, why I making a lot of these decisions, and it was due to that moment in time. Now, there were other things, societal conditioning, cultural conditionings that were present as well, which I unpicked. But a lot of my therapy was to do with the sexual abuse. And during that time where I had all of this stuff in the West End, I had all of this success on the outside, it actually inside was a really challenging time for me, where I had many panic attacks on stage. There was a time I remember where the doors were opening for me to come onto stage with the rest of the ensemble, and I was having a panic attack backstage. And I can't remember who came up to me and was like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, I actually just genuinely was not okay in that moment. But even though I had this career path and I had the fiance and I had a long-term relationship of 13 years, I still felt completely out of alignment. Little did I know that this would then lead me to a breakup with my fiance at the time, ending the 13-year relationship. A month before the breakup, I couldn't sleep. So I started sleep meditations, and this was where my spiritual awakening slowly initiated. Now, after this breakup, I continued meditating, and I felt peace and healing through guided meditations, but I was never the same after that. And actually, during this time, I read a book called Manifest by Roxy Nafisi, and I sat in a ritual with my manifestation candle and my music, and I sat basically in meditation, and I created a visual board and I listened to my heart, and I had this huge vision of me meditating in a treetop in Bali, and I just knew it was in Bali. I just wanted so desperately to be meditating on a treetop. And it was just whispers at the start, but then it just became bigger and bigger and bigger. I remember actually being in my relationship with my fiance at the time, and I wanted to go to Bali as our honeymoon. It was just Bali, Bali, Bali. And then after we broke up, it was just Bali, Bali, Bali. And then it was treetop, treetop, treetop. So I basically went on a self-discovery journey. And after making my vision board, a month later, I went with only one tiny rucksack. And it was to prove to myself that I didn't need control and that I could just trust the universe. Because at the time, I felt like I needed so much control. I felt like I needed to control every part of my life. Like my clothes would be in order. My calendar it would be so full of everything on it. So I really needed to basically prove it to myself that I could go out there and just book my accommodation for 2 weeks and then flow. So I went out with one tiny rucksack. And then 3 days in, I was on the treadmill and I was running and I was crying and I was thinking, I just really want to live here. I really, really wanted to live here. So after my something like 23 days there, I came back to the UK and I sold everything. I literally went back out just with 2 bags this time. And it was a huge initiation. It was a huge spiritual awakening with lots of learning, lots of growth through so many contractions and so many expansions. But on my way there the second time, I remember being in the airport and I hadn't found this treetop meditation just yet. I remember feeling so confused. I hadn't booked my accommodation this time, and I was umming and ahhing between 2 places. And it got to about 3 hours in of just spiraling overwhelmingly, like overthinking every single thing. And then I remember just going, oh, for goodness sake, Melissa, just but choose one. So I just dropped in, put one hand on my heart, one hand on my belly, and I just dropped in. And I just said, this one. So I chose it. I went to the accommodation. I got there and was hungry, so I went for dinner. And I remember walking up these steps and looking out onto the rice fields, and it was the most beautiful scenery. And I see this lady, and I seem to recognize her, and I look at her and I go, oh, she's somebody that I met at the yoga barn in Ubud the first time I went to Bali, and it was very synchronistic. And I said to her, oh, hi, I haven't seen you for a while. I've just got here. And she said, oh, I literally just got here a couple of days ago myself. And I thought to myself, this is strange. Of all the places in Bali, the fact that she also went away and came back to Bali, and then I did the same thing, and we've chosen the same place and we've met. It was so interesting. And we started talking, and she told me that she was going to go to a waterfall the next day, and invited me and said, would you like to come? And at this point, I just found out about human design, and that my strategy is to wait for the invitation. And she'd basically invited me to a place, and I really wanted to go and see some waterfalls. And I said, yes, I'd love to come. So the next day I went to her place to meet her first before going to the waterfall. And she said to me, would you mind coming to see a house? Because I'm looking to live here. And I thought, amazing. I get to go and see how it's done in this country. I want to live here too. So at some point I would want to buy a house here. And so I thought, amazing. I went with her. We went to this place and we opened the door. I walked in, and I look out onto the balcony, and the view was the view that I had seen in my meditations of me wanting to meditate on a treetop. This house was basically built on a big tree, like on land, which was looking over out onto so much jungle. And it just was a moment where it took my breath away, that I could not comprehend how that vision had come into my brain. I ended up staying at that place for 2 to 3 weeks. And actually, after that moment when we saw that house, that villa, we then went to the waterfall, and the waterfall's name was Melayang. Melissa, Melayang. I was like, that's just too synchronistic and coincidental. And I just felt like, why is this happening? What is going on? And it just gave me more reasons to just trust my intuition, follow what it is my heart wanted to do. So sometimes what feels like things are falling apart in front of you is actually things falling into place. So yeah, during my time in Bali, I started learning everything I could about spirituality, yoga, meditation, synchronicities, breathwork, astrology, human design, gene keys, ley lines, aliens. And honestly, I met people synchronistically time and time again in the same places without knowing that they would be there. I met people who set me on a huge new path of awakening to who I truly am. During this time, I felt the call to record these conversations. And I remember saying to everyone, like, I really want to record this conversation. Because they were telling me all their experiences about their awakenings. And it was such a huge passion of mine to hear about all their awakenings and their experiences and learn from them. And I learned so much hearing all these stories. So it was a passion for me to share this information with as many people as I could. And for so long, I was in so much fear of what I thought other people thought about me and what they would think, and me coming out as like woo woo and not being this person that they thought I was. But since then, I have started to listen to my intuition more, learn more about myself day in, day out, and be more present. And by doing that, it has led me to make decisions to where I am now. I started my own business, and now I'm able to work my own hours from home anywhere in the world with it. I go into companies and I hold workshops for them, and I get to work with people to find their purpose and listen to their heart and make their businesses better. And it's shown me one level of possibilities and proved what I am capable of. And I know and truly believe that there is abundance for everyone if we truly just listen to ourselves and what it is that our intuition is telling us. Now, I went through so many feelings of unworthiness, of not feeling good enough, of the fear of unknown. But despite those fears, I took action by listening to podcasts, following people who have done it already, and listening to my intuition has actually guided me in my business decisions. I was in a Mind Valley summit with Vishen Lakhiani, and he was explaining the Jose Silva method, which I tried and it worked on my sales, and I made more sales by doing it. And it was more evidence that was proving to me that there is more than this reality. So my questions for you today are, where in your life are you not fully aligned right now? What is your inner voice telling you that you're avoiding? And if nothing changed for you, where would you be in 1 to 2 years? But if you did listen, what could be possible for you? So, what would it look like to trust yourself just a little bit more? Now, if you are lost and trying to find your purpose, I invite you, listen to the call of your heart and intuition and take messy action. You do not need to have it all figured out. You just need to start listening. The universe will provide and change your reality to move you into the path of your highest calling. The one takeaway that I want you to leave with today is that your inner voice will keep whispering until you are ready to listen. Thank you for listening, and I hope this helps you or someone else. Please shine bright and shine your light by being you to the full. Be you to the full. You are beautiful. If you enjoyed this episode, please like, subscribe, and comment below your thoughts on your awakening experience. And I want to hear you share your voice. I love reading and replying to all your comments. I'm sending you so much love. Until next time, see you in the next episode.